you know what really kind of helps with failure is understanding that's natural.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. If you are surprised or angry that failure occurs, well, you set yourself up for that.
Right.
I mean, that's, if you're going to grow, if you're going to take risks, if you're going to get out there, you've got to just go ahead and put failure as part of the deal. And so if you're willing to do that, that doesn't mean that you don't hold yourself or whoever made the mistake accountable. But if you do that, that allows you to figure out the root cause without getting super judgmental about it, without being super angry about it, figuring out if it can be fixed or not. If it's a process and procedure, hey, fix the process procedure,
right.
Move on. If it's a person, figure out if that person can be fixed or can be, trained into doing that. Or frankly, sometimes it's time to cut ties, whatever the case may be.
Welcome to Beyond the Blueprint, powered by Contractors, Closers, and Connections, Orlando. Join me for in-depth interviews with some of the top commercial real estate and development executives in the industry. We uncover their success stories, their strategies, and their lessons learned along the way. Gain valuable insight whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out. Welcome Beyond the Blueprint. We are sitting down with Ed Storey from Storey Law Group on episode 2. Episode 1, we got to hear about his origin story, the things that he learned along the way, and how valuable relationships are. So we're going to get into some questions and answers.
Okay.
Not rapid fire yet, but
fair enough.
We'll get into that. So the first question is in particular in your career or even in your life, was there something that was the most valuable, whether it's a lesson learned or instance that may have happened that really shaped your trajectory in your career?
I think I go back to that period when the economy crashed a little bit, 2008, 2009 and whatnot. Once again, it was probably the most challenging time professionally for me.
Mm-hmm.
It happened to be also that I've got 3 children. My twins were born in 2006 as well. So, I had a lot of stuff going on. But when everything got hard, it was easy. It's easy, and you should definitely make hay while you can and you can take it. But going through that period of time, going through those challenges, the lessons I took away were, are you able to adapt? Are you willing to adapt?
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing to go out of your comfort zone and, once again, take advantage of the opportunities that are presented or create new opportunities? And I think for me, that was in retrospect. And at the time, you're just kind of getting through it.
Right.
But looking back, that was probably the most formative part of because I could have gone back to a firm. And once again, that wouldn't have been a bad decision at all.
Right.
Safe. It would have been safe, and it would have been fine. And I have no problem with doing that. But it also made me realize that's not what I wanted to do. And did I have the skills and the ability and the willingness to do what needed to be done so that I could keep doing what I want to do?
Right.
It wasn't particularly that I took the easy way out or took the hard road. It was just I decided I wanted to make this work, and I was willing to put in the time, effort, and I was willing to, I keep saying it, come out of my comfort zone of what I knew in order to make tomorrow better. And so that was the period of time that I look back on and that taught me the most was I had to learn who I was
mm-hmm.
and what I wanted. And when I came through it, I realized I felt good about that situation, and I felt good that I was willing to put the time in it because it ended up being the right decision.
Right. Well, it's kind of the wheat and the tear scenario,
sure.
Right? It's like just really doing some self-evaluation of like, what do I want? What am I going at? And if I make the safe play of going back to this corporate America where I know I can find a job,
sure.
They'll feed me clients, but in reality, what do I want to do long term? And if I've got to pivot and adapt while I'm in this uncomfortable scenario, it's going to pay off more
right.
long term than it is right now.
Those were those discussions with my wife. I remember them, hey, are you okay? Is this what you want? All right, I'm here for you.
Right.
And having that support system is obviously essential for that. I've definitely known plenty of people that, if you don't have the support, those situations get harder. But I had the support, I had the desire, and so all of those factors made it palatable
sure.
for it. But that's I would say going through the fires, as miserable as they are, they still reveal who you are and hopefully what you want.
Yeah.
So that's the lesson that I remember.
That's awesome. So throughout your career, obviously you've seen, corporate America, partnership, and then entrepreneurial now here at your current law group. What would you say would be the most, well, let's go first. What's your definition of success?
There's a lot of different factors. Once again, I've now got a family, so my definitions have evolved over the years.
Sure.
At this point, success for me is comfort and stability in the family.
Mm-hmm.
So providing enough and giving enough of myself, let alone financially, so that I can provide that for my family is probably the core to what I consider to be successful today. From a purely professional thing, once again, it's evolved. It used to be money and reputation, and all those things are very, very important still. I don't want to tell you either way, but now it's been moving slowly and more purposely towards positive impact.
Mm-hmm.
Am I impacting my clients, my employees, my friends, and whatnot? When they walk away, or do they feel it's been a good relationship? Have I provided value to them? Have I provided benefits to them? So any more family stability and comfort there, and then professionally, obviously making enough money so that I have the ability to do that, but also feeling that what I'm doing is providing a positive purpose.
Right. Well, it brings that fulfillment, and I think
does.
that fulfillment is oftentimes our foundation too. It's what keeps us going.
I tell you what, but I will say that fulfillment comes with age and time a little bit. I mean, and some people get it earlier than others, but I would definitely say, as we've gone along, the component of feeling responsibility to others and the need to give back and the need to provide people with good experiences definitely grows. It really does take on a kind of a life of its own. And once you get to that stage, you realize, because you don't know it until you kind of actually have the time and effort to give that.
Right.
But once you get there, you realize how fulfilling that can be.
Well, because I think early on, especially, your head's buried in the sand. You're just like pushing.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of hours.
Yeah.
I mean, that my job is based on hours.
Yeah.
That's how I make a living. The more hours I work, the more money I make, and that's a terribly inefficient and crude situation.
Right.
But that's our industry. And so how I made sure we did it is I just outworked you.
Yeah.
And so if I outworked you and I did, then I hit the financial goals that were so important to me at that time.
So what would you say was the biggest misconception of success?
First off, the tried and true that money is everything, because it's not. You can find value and purpose beyond the money. The money takes a lot of things and makes it better.
Sure.
But I think after that, growth is like the goal. Like I think growth professionally, you have to grow over the course of a year, but I think size and that bigger is better. What I learned as we went through some growing phases, that we didn't really have a good purpose and plan and goal for that growth, that we just kind of grew for growth's sake.
Right.
And thinking that growth would make things, more profitable and better and give more opportunity, which growth, if done properly, does that. But I think people don't foresee, I know I didn't fully, how much your role changes, especially as the owner, as you grow. You probably are in a position to grow because you do the work.
Right.
You're out there in front providing the product, the service, and you have a certain level of quality that you're going out there. And then once you grow, it is your job to make sure everybody else meets that quality.
Sure.
And so quality control becomes important. And all of a sudden now you don't have as much time to do your work. And now you're managing not just yourself, but you're managing others. You've got HR to worry about. You got to worry about all the different components of that. And you stretch yourself.
Yeah.
And you think you can do it all, especially if you're a control freak like sometimes I am. And you stretch yourself too thin, and then the quality goes down.
Yeah.
And then you end up doing more damage to yourself and your reputation than what you thought. So I think growth it's a misconception that just by being bigger, you've somehow made it.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. If you grew and that was your intention and you did it correctly and you kept the quality and the reputation in the same manner, then yes, then you've made it. But if you grew just to grow state and it ended up backfiring, man, I tell you what, there's a lot of, figuring it all out.
Yeah.
If it's not done properly.
Yeah. And so that kind of transitions into our next question of like your thought process on building a team, structuring that growth. What would you say is some of the key things that you focus on when structuring that growth plan?
Start off with the right people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
so how do you find the right people? What
well,
do you
right?
look for?
So my parents used to say they spent more time trying to make C+ players into Bs than they did in finding the A players.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the kind of comments that they would always tell me, is that you spend your time on the front end finding the right players. Because once you find the right players, the other stuff gets easy. That's the heavy lifting.
Right.
If you surround yourself with good people, with similar values, with self-motivated qualities that are intellectually curious and are intentionally trying to better themselves professionally and personally, they're doing the work for you.
Right.
Now you just have to kind of figure out the little things to help motivate them and round out the curves and whatnot. So I would definitely recommend, because it feels like sometimes people don't make decisions until they have to, and then they're forced into last second decisions that they end up having to deal with. But if you can slow down, take the time to make sure that the right candidate's in front of you, that you're choosing from the right candidates, to the extent you can get referrals from people you know and trust.
Mm-hmm.
I would highly, I've put a lot of faith in that, and that's usually worked out for me.
Yeah.
Is the people I've gotten from, places unknown have not always worked out. The people that I know and trust in the industry that says, hey, you should look at this person, those have typically worked out.
Yeah.
So that it's a little bit trite, but it's, if you find the right people, the vast majority of the work's going to be done for you.
Yeah.
And then after that, if you're not asking what is motivating your employees, then you're falling into the trap of thinking that what you value, they value.
Right.
And most of the time they overlap. But you'd be surprised when you ask what people value and what they think is going to make them happier. And I think a lot of people, I know I was guilty of this for a long time, you didn't even ask. You just kind of assumed
Mm-hmm.
that, it's just money, or it's just this particular perk, or whatever the case may be. But turns out, if you take the time to actually get to know your employees and you actually ask the questions, you get surprised sometimes with answers, and then you can actually tailor make, the benefits and the goals and whatnot to hopefully meet both yours and their expectations. Right. So
what's creating that culture around what their goals and expectations are.
Yeah.
You got to have a pulse on that. You can't, oftentimes I tell people, like, you can't just create a culture based off what you think is going to work. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, you need people.
I still struggle with it. When you start your own business, you often kind of have a thought process that you know what to do.
Yeah.
And hopefully for the most part you do. I mean, otherwise you'd fail pretty quickly, but it's easy to take the mindset that and that everybody's like you and that they think like you. They don't.
Yeah.
It's always shocking to me how people's mind works differently than mine.
Mm-hmm.
It's not better. It's not worse. It's just different. And I have struggled, and I'm still to this day getting better about asking the right questions because they'll give you the canned answers. You gotta spend time with them. You gotta actually ask a few more questions to get to the root of what it is that makes them tick. And then once you figure that out, once again, if you find out it's not what you're wanting, then good for all of you to figure that out early. But if you do, man, your job gets easier to keep your employees satisfied, because now you know what you need to do. And if you didn't do it, you shouldn't be surprised. You can only be mad at yourself then, not so much then.
Well, someone needs to write a book on like the corporate love languages, right?
Yeah, I think you've heard that one before. Yeah. So
learning what your employees are really wanting.
Yeah,
and
I'm just
searching for.
It's true as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, having a pulse on that. That's definitely important. Today's episode is brought to you by Bryce Knuth of Insurance Office of America. As a contractor or real estate owner in Florida, you've likely experienced the impact of rising insurance premiums year after year. With the challenging insurance marketplace, having a specialist who focuses on your industry is critical now more than ever before. If you'd like a second set of eyes on your current insurance program or don't have a relationship with your current broker, please contact Bryce Knuth at 407-697-6944 via call or text, or email bryce.knuth@ioausa.com. Don't let rising insurance costs catch you off guard. Reach out to Bryce today. How would you say, your failures and setbacks, I mean, even going through 2008 and everything, how would you say that you manage your failures and setbacks and kind of overcome them and manage a positive mindset?
I'm an analytical person. I'm a very, thoughtful, I'm a little slow to make decisions. And that's got some good and bad. But when failures or mistakes occur, I do a pretty deep dive into root causes. I try to figure out all the failures that came, and that's part of my job as an attorney. It's kind of figure out all the ins and outs of what's going on, so you see the full picture. But that's where I'm good at, is I try to deep dive and don't just take the surface level where it went wrong, but actually get to the root of it and then try to learn from that. And then you try to have, what really kind of helps with failure is understanding that's natural.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. If you are surprised or angry that failure occurs, well, you set yourself up for that. Right. I mean, that's, if you're going to grow, if you're going to take risks, if you're going to get out there, you've got to just go ahead and put failure as part of the deal. And so if you're willing to do that, that doesn't mean that you don't hold yourself or whoever made the mistake accountable. But if you do that, that allows you to figure out the root cause without getting super judgmental about it, without being super angry about it, figuring out if it can be fixed or not. If it's a process and procedure, hey, fix the process, procedure, right. Move on. If it's a person, figure out if that person can be fixed or can be, trained into doing that. Or frankly, sometimes it's time to cut ties, whatever the case may be. But if you're just going to dwell on it and you're just going to never really even contemplate that is a natural function of business, well, then you're really going to be pretty miserable. So I think that's how I try to take it, is when mistakes happen, I try not to think into the world. I try to think, what happened? Let's get to the root cause, reverse engineer to make sure it doesn't happen again, and then move on.
Right. Well, there's value in analyzing all of that, right? It's
absolutely.
You keep failing at the same thing. It's like, okay, well, you need to really analyze this.
Well,
you can't just get up and go.
You can't have such a short memory that oh yeah, that was the fourth time this month. But if you dwell on it, and I think especially with employees, you have to, your employees will know if you're constantly resentful. Mm-hmm. That's not a good situation for them. It's not a good situation for you. So if you have mistakes, if you make a mistake, that's one thing. If they're making it's another. But I think it is important, once you fix or you analyze the problem and you think you've put the fix in, you've got to just move on. Yeah. And you've got to not dwell on that, and then the next time it comes up, obviously if it's a repetitive problem, that's one thing. But if a new mistake is made, you just have to make sure that you put the right process and procedure. I am so self-critical. Pretty much every mistake that happens, I assume that I failed somewhere. That's a little bit harsh, but if I take the responsibility, then it takes off everybody else, and then I am then responsible for fixing it as well. Yeah. And then I can allocate responsibilities from there. And so that's
how would you say that you remain positive through those times?
I think positive thinking it is such a difficult thing. I will say that is a struggle, because once you own your business, you worry about everything. Yeah. Constantly, every aspect. Before then it was just me. Am I doing a good job? Am I hitting my goal? Now it's everybody. I got to worry about my employees. Not only are they doing a good job, but are they in at the stage where I'm at? Are they being satisfied in their job? Are they getting something out of this? There's so many aspects, and it really can weigh on you. It can really constantly put you in a state of misery where you walk in that door and you're like, oh. Yeah. And that is hard to get out of. What I try to do anymore, one is compartmentalize. I've always been pretty good about that. Compartmentalize, especially work versus out of work lives. But I try to compartmentalize, and then I try to not forget to celebrate the wins.
Yeah.
For a long time, and still to this day, I struggle with it, but I try. You would have this deal that was hard, and we made it happen, and everybody's happy, and you should take a moment to celebrate that success and feel good about your achievements. But oftentimes you just go, well, I got another problem, got to go.
Yeah.
And everybody around you sees that, and that mentality of jumping from problem to problem to problem without actually taking a moment to realize you've done something good.
Yeah.
It should be rewarded or celebrated and acknowledged. If you do that, then throughout the day, you will have positive moments that'll help you keep that positive outlook. But that doesn't mean that it happens every day. But if you intentionally do that, I think that thought process has helped me.
It's almost like a mind shift change, where you're just kind of celebrating those small wins, and eventually enough small wins equals a big win.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you don't celebrate them, because that can happen.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this?
Right.
If you can't even reward yourself for big deals, let alone little deals,
right?
Then yeah, I mean, the financial reward's nice, but at the same time, like, you got to get more out of it. And if your employees are constantly seeing you being a miserable grump, they're going to take on that personality too, and they're going to think of the work in that mentality. So you have to be intentional about it. It's not always how I feel. It's not always how I am on the inside, but I try to intentionally sit down and go, something good happened today. Something should be celebrated, and whoever was involved in this, you need to go say, good job.
Right. Well, and especially in this industry, it's not always roses, right? But
No.
when there are, you got to stop and smell the roses.
That's right. That's right. And I think that creates a level of every time, especially when you start growing or have those wins kind of start piling in.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's a good mindset.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're going to get into rapid fire. That's okay with you. So what's something that most people don't know about you?
I like to collect baseball cards.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. It's sentimental. My dad and I, that's what we did when we were kids. And for whatever reason, it's just a hobby I enjoy, and it relaxes me, and it brings me a little bit of joy.
Yeah. When are you the most productive?
I'm a late night guy. I can do mornings okay. But if I really have a long project that needs to get done, 9 to 2 a.m., I can knock out some stuff.
Yeah.
I don't suggest it.
I texted you last night.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm still at work. I'm like, good God.
Yeah, no, it's I wouldn't say it's my best quality according to my wife, but it's when it's quiet, nobody's calling and whatnot. And for whatever reason, I've always been a nighttime focus.
Yeah. Who's your inspiration?
It's cliche, but it's my parents. Yeah. I can't get over the benefits of having them as good role models throughout my life.
Yeah. What's something new happening in your life?
I have twin daughters that are 17. They're about to finish up their junior year. So we are at the middle of looking at colleges and SATs, and kind of exciting because they're at the doorstep of the next step of their life, and we get to be part of that and get to influence a little bit and help them make the decisions.
Are they future attorneys or?
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think this is can be a good job and a rewarding job. It's a hard job.
Yeah.
It's a very hard job. And they tell you that as you're going through law school, and they tell you that every attorney will tell you that, and they say, don't do it. And then you do it anyway.
Yeah.
But no, I think they have different aspirations, and I'm encouraging that.
That's great. What advice would you give younger Ed? So
many things. I think one, learn to set boundaries for yourself. That helps you set expectations both for yourself and for the people that you're working with, and really learn how to say no.
Oh wow.
I mean, it is when you are. I'm kind of a people pleaser. I want to do good and have people think good about my work and whatnot, and sometimes it becomes difficult to say no to things that you really shouldn't do,
right?
That are outside of your scope, outside of your core competence, and you think you can do everything, and sometimes you can't. But you want to help. You want to provide for this person because they're asking for help. but you've got to learn your limitations. You got to be able to say no. And sometimes saying yes to things that I have no business doing has gotten me in trouble. So, you know, learn to set boundaries and say no sometimes.
If you could describe yourself in 5 words, what would they be?
Determined, hardworking, thoughtful, practical, resourceful.
Yeah. What's the next 10 years look like?
You know, we just moved into a new building. We've kind of are trying to refocus. You kind of do a little bit of refresh and whatnot. So I think the 10 years we have been lucky where we have surrounded ourselves, like I said, with good people. You know, we now have a core group of people that they've been with me, most of them, for a good period of time, and I've got an understanding of them, they've got an understanding of me, and I feel now with this group that we can expand, and not expand for growth wise. I just mean like we can specialize in the things that we are, and really become focused on what we do well, and grow within ourselves. I'm not looking to particularly grow bigger. I'm looking to, stop hitting at the edges of what we do, but focus on the things that we do well and what we do very well, so that we can make that a full-time job, not need to do other things outside of the scope of our specialties.
Right. Just kind of really hone in on
Yeah, so that's it. Is it focusing on the group that I have now. If we can grow, if that opportunity comes, we'll take it. But I'm feeling good about who we have, and just trying to professionally grow everybody with who we've got now.
Yeah. If you had to ask or tell God one thing, what would it be?
Thank you. I mean, the amount of blessings that have been bestowed upon me. And it's difficult to not be grateful. And so, and just the reality is I couldn't be here, and I wouldn't be here without God in my life and the foundation that He's provided. So thank you.
Yeah. Awesome, Ed. Well, it has been a pleasure to sit down with you. Thank you for sharing some great insight and where you came from. So I look forward to the next 10 years, and I want to see how this building turned out.
Yeah.
So
love to have you over.
Have to swing by. So Beyond the Blueprint, this has been Ed Storey with Storey Law Group. Stay tuned for our next episodes coming soon. Thanks.